I don't like paying for things. I know, what a controversial statement that I'm sure no one will agree with me on, but there's one thing that I pay for that really doesn't cost me a whole ton, and that would be public transportation. For a single ride or day pass, transit is actually pretty cheap, but over time those costs can definitely add up on a person's budget. But public transit is a public service, and I'm a good American taxpayer, so why should I have to pay a fare to ride transit? Maybe it should just be free to hop on and hop off. Fare-free transit systems are actually more common than you might think. Many cities around the United States, whether big or small, have some sort of free transit service that they have in their city, and these services have a wide range of functionality and uses. One of the most common modes of free transit you'll see is at airports. Airport buses and people movers are designed to get people between terminals, airport parking, car rentals, and transit to other parts of the city for free. College towns are also another example of fare-free transit. One example of these fare-free college town services would be the Orbit in Tempe, Arizona. One of the main purposes of this circulator is to help students at Arizona State University get around Tempe. However, free transit is not just limited to college towns and airport people movers. A lot of cities have actually invested in building free streetcars for their downtowns. These downtown streetcars are usually tourist-oriented, but they can serve downtown locals as well. These downtown streetcars have varying success when it comes to actually generating ridership. The Tico streetcar in Tampa, Florida, and the KC streetcar in Kansas City, Missouri are both really good examples of streetcars that have seen success. These two streetcar lines both connect two fairly walkable neighborhoods within their respective cities, and if you want to learn more about them, I have some videos on them. But these streetcars can also serve universities, like with the Tempe streetcar, which works as a complement to the Valley Metro LRT in Tempe, Arizona. And in the weirdest of cases, your fare-free system can be a weird monorail people mover thing that serves basically no one, like the JTA Skyway, but more on that in a future video. Yeah, but outside of airports, those are just mostly small downtown or campus-oriented systems. Surely no fairly large city would ever consider making their actual transit system free, right? Well, prepare to have your minds blown, because as of November 2023, the city of Albuquerque, New Mexico decided to make their entire bus network free to ride. Quick note, the city also has a regional rail line called the Rail Runner that runs between Albuquerque and Santa Fe, and they still do charge fares to ride. Also, another fun fact, it was featured a few times in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Regardless, this is a bold move by any transit agency to make this many of their lines free to ride. But why did they do it? And is it providing benefits to anyone? Well, I think the most obvious thing is that riders won't have to worry about paying for transit. This might not be an issue if you have some disposable income, but if you're struggling financially, then even small costs like this can really help free up more money in your monthly budget. But fare-free systems come with more benefits than just reducing personal costs. Free transit encourages more ridership, not only amongst existing users, but encourages new riders to check out and try transit as well. Encouraging ridership also comes with the added benefits of reducing the amount of drivers on the road, which can improve traffic flow and reduce the emissions that cars create by having less cars on the road. But free transit doesn't only provide benefits for the riders of the system, but can also benefit the agency itself. One of the main reasons why Albuquerque made its buses free to ride was it was actually costing more to maintain the infrastructure to charge fares than what they were actually making from charging the fares. Systems that are also fare-free can benefit from reduced dwell times at stations, meaning they won't have to wait as long for people to board since drivers don't have to worry about collecting fares. Now, you might be thinking, sweet, those are some great benefits. Let's make all transit fare-free. But you might be surprised that free transit is not all sunshine and rainbows. Free transit definitely has its benefits, but in a lot of ways, they're kind of undone by the downsides that they bring. Let's go back to the idea of looking at dwell times. Sure, they can be reduced by getting rid of fares altogether, but there are actually a lot of other ways that you can reduce dwell times while still collecting fares. You can use off-board payment where you have everybody buy their tickets before boarding the bus. Or you can use rear door boarding where you collect fares with a validator by the rear doors. Fare-free transit also has the issue where dwell times can increase more than if you were charging for transit because of the increase in ridership that you're seeing from making fares free. But yeah, I can yap about how dwell times and boarding are a big issue. However, fare-free transit has one significant issue that I think really makes it worth reconsidering. But you know what doesn't have a significant issue that makes it worth reconsidering? My Patreon, because you can get early access to videos, your name in the credits, and much more. The link's below to go check it out, but let's get back into the video. Transit agencies in North America require multiple sources of funding in order to operate. Most transit agencies receive funding from federal, state, and local sources, but usually there's some sort of gap in this funding that transit agencies need to close. This can come from other sources like advertisements on transit and at stations. Quick note, I hate how many injury attorneys have ads at bus stations and on the buses themselves. It really makes transit look tacky, but anyways. This revenue usually comes from charging fares to ride. And it isn't like this is some small share of the revenue for agencies. This can range anywhere from 15% all the way up to 50% depending on the agency. This revenue is usually used for basic operations and maintenance, while grants from federal and state governments can usually be used to fund improvements to the system, such as improving stations, building bus lanes, improving modes of transit like converting bus lines into rail transit, and improving frequency and operating hours of the existing transit. Without this ability to fund transit, it's very likely that fare-free agencies are going to stagnate or reduce their services. And with our example of Albuquerque, their network frequency outside of its one excellent BRT line is absolutely abysmal. Most of their lines outside of the BRT only operate with hourly frequencies. And with poor operating hours where most bus lines end before 8 p.m., the only people who are really going to be using the service, even when it's made free, are those who can't afford to use a car. So should we have fare-free transit at all? Free transit for a whole system unfortunately seems fairly unsustainable and leads to a stagnation of service from that agency. However, in a smaller form, there are ways to make fare-free transit financially viable. One of the most common ways you can do this is with a Transit Development District, or TDD for short. These zones are created by voter approval and use tax revenue generated by local businesses and real estate to fund fare-free transit. Probably the most successful example of this is the KC streetcar, which is actually seeing some major expansions from it. But it's unlikely a whole city network could be funded using a TDD alone. However, we should be working on making transit more accessible to use. One thing we can do is make it easier to get reduced or free fares on existing agencies that charge fares. A lot of these transit agencies have some pretty ridiculous requirements to get a reduced fare pass. Making it easier for those who have a hard time affording transit to ride for free or at a reduced cost on existing networks would be huge to make transit equitable while still being able to collect fares from those who can afford it. America has a major shortage of public transit, and while it might seem like a good idea at first to make a whole transit system fare-free, it's likely that these benefits provided by this fare-free transit will be met with a stagnation or reduction of services. Making larger transit networks and providing more frequent service on existing lines should be the main goal of every transit agency. And if you want to make transit more accessible to everyone, frequency, network, and speed should be your main priority over making your transit free to ride. But have you ever been on a free transit service? Do you think fare-free transit should become the norm? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Here's a thank you to everybody who helped me make this video. And here's a special thank you to all of my patrons, especially Tony Stunts, who's in my Metro tier, and CC Marv MD, who's in my Trolleybus tier. Want to support the channel and get some extra perks like early access to content, your name in the credits, and much more? Click the link down below. Also down there, you'll find my social media where I make other posts. Also, I know I haven't mentioned it much, but I actually started a podcast with Alex Williams of Humane Cities and Nick Laporte. Link down below as well. Folks, thank you so much for all of your support on my recent videos. It's meant a lot to me, and as always, I'll see y'all on the next one.